Hi guys, Ravio Between Worlds here. The timeline placement of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild has been one of the most debated topics amongst the Zelda community over the past years. Ever since the very first shot of Zelda Wii U, people wanted to know where it took place in the timeline. And we still don't know after the game's release for some months now. And now and then we get some little things about it. Like, we know, thanks to the game's director Hidemaro Fujibayashi, that Breath of the Wild takes place the furthest in the future of all games amongst the Zelda franchise. But the Zelda timeline splits into three thanks to the events of Ocarina of Time, and there are three different dimensions: the Downfall timeline, Child timeline, Adult timeline. But in which three of these does Breath of the Wild take place? Breath of the Wild references many things from these different timelines, which is really weird. The location of the Master Sword in Breath of the Wild is really similar to A Link to the Past, but the game also has Koroks and Rito, which only appear in Wind Waker. But there are also Zora, which don't appear in Wind Waker because the Rito are the evolved form of the Zoras. And the Zoras are very similar to the Zoras found in Twilight Princess, which is really weird. In one of the game's memories, Zelda mentions the hero of Twilight, but the game itself references tons of characters from all these timelines in its location names. You could say they're Easter eggs, but you can also say that they are canon, and I will come back to this later because this might be the key to the real timeline placement. Are you ready for some of the game's references? In Breath of the Wild, locations can be found with the names Romani Plains, referencing Romani from Majora's Mask from the Child timeline, Mape Village ruins, referencing Mape Village from Link's Awakening in the Downfall timeline, and Mount Gustav, referencing King Gustav, a former king of Hyrule from Minish Cap. There's also Mount Daphnes, referencing King Daphnes from the Wind Waker. In the Adult timeline, it's three different timelines being mentioned. Makar Island, referencing Makar from the Wind Waker. Roru Hillside, referencing Roru from Ocarina of Time. Minchi Woods and Pico Pond, referencing the Minish/the Picori from Minish Cap. Darunia Lake, referencing Darunia from Ocarina of Time. Kepora Pass, referencing Kepora Gebora from Ocarina of Time. Tingle, Ankle, Knuckle and Davdi Island, referencing Tingle and his brothers from Wind Waker and Minish Cap. Mikau, Lulu and Toto Lake, referencing several Zoras from Majora's Mask. Rutada River, referencing Queen Rutella from Twilight Princess. Zaus, Malida, Murkay and Bannon Island, referencing islands with the same names from Phantom Hourglass. Linebeck Island, referencing Linebeck from Phantom Hourglass. And Midler Woods, which probably mentions Midna from Twilight Princess. Mount Naboru, referencing Naboru from Ocarina of Time. Aquame Lake and Karak Bridge, referencing bosses from The Legend of Zelda. Breach of the Mice, referencing the Mice, the Demon King from Skyward Sword, and there are more. It doesn't make any sense, Nintendo. What is this? It just doesn't make any sense. There's tons of references from all the different timelines. It's kinda sad that Ravio didn't get a reference though. But we do know more thanks to Eiji Aonuma, the game's producer. Eiji Aonuma has stated in an interview recently that Hyrule's history has changed over time. This can also happen in our own world. Like ancient times, thousands of years ago, there might have been things that told stories of recent things that happened, but these are lost now, so we don't know them anymore. And that might also have happened in Hyrule, stories got lost, or different stories got mixed up and we didn't know what was true. Well, we do know, we played all the games, but the Hyruleans lost their own history. There were so many stories, even from different timelines, different dimensions, that got mixed up, and they didn't know what truly happened. you can see this because, for example, the hero of Twilight is mentioned by Zelda in the memory, but it is also mentioned in the history of the Zoras that Princess Rito became a sage, which happens in a different timeline. That's basically proof of the fact that stories from different timelines were mixed up, which is really strange. And because of this, we can't really know what's true, because nobody really knows what's true. But we can try to answer the question, why did everything get messed up? How can different stories from different dimensions get mixed up? I mean, some people think the timeline splits converge again, and I think that simply doesn't make sense. A timeline split doesn't really make sense, but a convergence would be impossible. How can you mix like a really prosperous version of Hyrule from the child timeline with new Hyrule with an enormous sea from adult timeline, and then also Hyrule in ruins from the downfall timeline? They can't merge into one world. That's impossible. It's simply impossible. And I don't want to talk about this too long, because I think I have the explanation, a solution, and not a solution to why Hyrule's history has become such a mess. And now I'm gonna take quite a big jump. So listen out before you think, hey, it doesn't make sense what you're saying. I shall explain. Here is my solution. Hyrule Warriors. Hyrule Warriors, Hyrule Warriors. You might be thinking that game isn't canon, so it doesn't make sense. You're wrong. But before you click away, think about it. Triforce Heroes was one of the most recent Zelda games, and it also used to be non-canon, no part of the timeline. And later on, it was stated to be a part of it, and it took place after A Link Between Worlds. And it is true that Hyrule Warriors is actually more of a spin-off than a real Zelda game. But what's the problem with placing it in the timeline? Nothing actually, because the story isn't really connected to any of the games. It does connect to other games, but the story of the game itself isn't connected to the stories of other games. If you don't know Hyrule Warriors, it's a spin-off, it's a crossover between Legend of Zelda and Dynasty Warriors, in which you can fight as many characters from lots of different Zelda games. It focuses on combat and fighting loads of enemies at the same time and taking over the battlefield. Now, in Hyrule Warriors, there are magical gates called the Gates of Souls, and these can summon characters from all these different timelines. These gates can interact between the different timelines. They can summon characters like Darunia and Rito from Ocarina of Time, or Midna and Zen from Twilight Princess, or King Daphnis from The Wind Waker, or Marin from Link's Awakening, Skull Kid from Majora's Mask, or Ravio from A Link Between Worlds, Tomb Zelda from Spirit Tracks 2. And if these events were actually true, Breath of the Wild might totally make sense. To me, a timeline placement in the child timeline would be most logical, because Hyrule is prosperous in comparison to the downfall timeline, where Hyrule keeps getting messed up by Ganon all the time. And the adult timeline would also not really be logical, because then Hyrule should be unflooded again. You know, the Great Sea would be drained, because Breath of the Wild obviously doesn't take place in New Hyrule, because Spirit Tracks has trains. And if there had been trains before Breath of the Wild, there would definitely have been far more technology around Breath of the Wild's time. And besides that, the developers themselves have said that Breath of the Wild doesn't have to do with The Wind Waker as in its story, which would probably mean that Hyrule can't be flooded or unflooded, because that has to do with The Wind Waker. In the child timeline, or actually Twilight Princess, there are Gorons and Zoras which are really similar to the ones from Breath of the Wild. And the Gorons and Zoras don't appear in the Downfall timeline in Hyrule. They do appear in Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons, but these don't take place in Hyrule. And the Gorons do appear in the adult timeline, but they're with very few. And the Zoras don't appear in the adult timeline, but Koroks and Rito do appear in the adult timeline, just like in Breath of the Wild. I will come back to that later. Also, Kakariko Village survives up till the end of the child timeline. That's not true in the adult timeline, in the Downfall timeline. And it wouldn't make sense for Hyrule to live without Kakariko Village for a really long time, and then basically just build a new village with Sheikah and name it Kakariko Village. And especially not in New Hyrule. And I think in the Downfall timeline also just wouldn't make sense, because there are definitely no Sheikah around there. But that counts almost for every game after Ocarina of Time. But whatever, now we're gonna talk about the connections between Hyrule Warriors and Breath of the Wild. Why would they be connected? Are you ready? One major connection is the Sheikah. In a cutscene in Hyrule Warriors, Impa questions Sheik about her origin, and it is made clear that Impa is the leader of the Sheikah tribe. That makes it clear that the Sheikah do certainly still exist in Hyrule Warriors, and that they are still active as a tribe. That could mean that after Hyrule Warriors they could develop more and become a real advanced civilization that it used to be before Breath of the Wild. The Sheikah don't appear in any of the other games after Ocarina of Time, which would mean they kind of remained in the shadows, just secretly behind the screens. And at the point of Hyrule Warriors, they had grown bigger again, and they really returned like, hey, we're the Sheikah. Now, for all these references in Breath of the Wild, for almost all of them, I have a solution from Hyrule Warriors. Do note that Hyrule Warriors has lots of DLC that brings more characters to it. Knowing that the Gates of Souls could simply summon these characters, we can assume that the DLC for Hyrule Warriors is canon with the game. And in Hyrule Warriors Legends, the 3DS version of the game, most of these DLC characters just appear as standard characters without DLC, which you could say they are just canon. So the stories written about Princess Rito at Zora's Domain that I mentioned earlier were probably told by Rito herself during Hyrule Warriors, and these stories that she told during the battles, in between, they were passed on through the ages. Romani Plains, Mikau, Lulu and Toto Lake, and any other Majora's Mask references were probably there because young Link, who came there technically through DLC, told about these people from Termina, and their stories and names were kept along the ages, and places were named after him. Of course, the Zoras, they keep in mind, hey, there were these cool Zoras from a different dimension. We're gonna keep in mind that they exist, and they name their places after them, the lakes. And Mount Daphnis is of course named after King Daphnis from Wind Waker, who also appears through DLC in Hyrule Warriors, or canonically in Hyrule Warriors Legends. Mape Village, Ukuku Plains and some other Link's Awakening references were probably named after places that Marin had mentioned when she appeared in Hyrule Warriors. The Tingle Islands were named after Tingle and his brothers. They appeared in the Minish Cap, and Tingle also appears in Hyrule Warriors, and he is of course cool enough to mention his brothers and get an isle named after him. Makar Island was named after Makar, who Toon Link might have mentioned from his own adventures when he came to Hyrule Warriors, just like Zaus, Malida, Murkey and Bannon Island, and the brave sailor Lineback. Rutala River, named after Zora Queen Rutella from Twilight Princess, would make sense if this game was placed in the child timeline, but if it wasn't, they could have been mentioned through Midna. Some references are before the timeline split, of course, like King Gustav, which would make sense then because his name would have been kept amongst the Hyrulean royal family. and even all the items obtainable in Breath of the Wild's DLC would make sense. Midna's helmet is a copy from the real Midna's helmet from either Twilight Princess, if this game was in the Child Timeline, or her return in Hyrule Warriors. The Phantom Armor was created after Toon Zelda's Phantom Armor ability in Hyrule Warriors. Tingle's outfit was created after the real Tingle's fabulous outfit, who appears in Hyrule Warriors, and Majora's Mask was made after Skull Kid's mask in Hyrule Warriors. It all makes sense, all these references, all the connections, it all connects to Hyrule Warriors. It doesn't even matter if the game is not in the Child Timeline, or maybe just in a separate dimension, as Eiji Aonuma has said before, because it all connects. It just all connects. It makes sense. It is the solution. Almost. One question remains. What's about the Koroks and the Rito? The Zora in Breath of the Wild and the Gorons are most similar to the ones from Twilight Princess, and because of some other reasons I've mentioned, it would make sense to place Hyrule Warriors in Breath of the Wild in the Child Timeline. But where do the Koroks and the Rito come from then? Placing the game in the adult timeline would simply make no sense because of several reasons. A little spoiler alert here. Hyrule is sunken under the ocean and the Triforce is gone, as seen in Spirit Tracks. There are trains in New Hyrule which would make the technology in Breath of the Wild far more developed than it actually is in there. And in New Hyrule, Kakariko Village, Death Mountain, the Deku Tree, the Gerudo, the Koroks and the Rito don't exist. That would make no sense, or if the ocean was drained, that would be too sudden, too random. There will be no evidence or causes or reason for this. So what is possible then? Well, I have some possibilities for this, but this is the hardest part of this theory. But I still have some solutions for this. It could have been that when a new Deku Tree had grown, that he created the Koroks to live in the Korok forest, so they didn't come from Wind Waker, but they were just created by the Deku Tree. And there might be a possibility that some people from different timelines stayed in Hyrule Warriors. So if Medley did so, she might have gotten offspring in some way from another bird. Also, maybe she just took a bunch of different Rito with her and they started living there in the Hyrule Warriors timeline. And there is also still the possibility that Hyrule Warriors isn't a part of this timeline. As Eiji Aonuma has stated, it runs in a parallel dimension, so it's basically some other kind of timeline, which isn't any of the three timeline splits, but still a Zelda dimension timeline. And it could have been that in that timeline the Koroks and the Rito also existed along the Gorons and the Zora. It can be possible if the Kokiri evolved into the Koroks and the Zora basically split up into the more Twilight Princess Breath of the Wild Zora and the Rito. That can also be a possibility, would probably make the most sense, and Breath of the Wild can be placed after it then. So that's the only thing I'm not completely sure about, but I think that separate dimension would be the most logical solution for that. So I hope you enjoyed this theory. Please leave your thoughts and your theories about this in the comment section. Please like, subscribe and share this video if you want to see more of my theories. Or maybe just if you automatically like every video you watch because you never watch bad videos like me. But maybe I'm just weird. Well, thanks so much for watching and I'll see you next time.